Welcome back to Horn Takes, your Texas baseball and Texas football talk destination. I'm Sean Redfern. It's a Saturday, and we are live on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. We're going to be doing a little more of this, so I'll try to find a schedule so I can keep you guys on a schedule, those that are interested, so that we can all be together on these live streams. If you're on the chat, say hello. If I say something crazy on the chat, say hello. I don't care. Y'all know I don't care, man. That was an absolute tough loss last night for Longhorn Nation, but the sun came up today. I look like hell. I don't feel like hell, but I look like hell. I might sound like hell. I don't know. We got a lot of ammo last night in the tank to have some drunk Sean thoughts for you guys for today. We're going to do a quick recap of our Orange Bowl pick. We'll talk a little bit about how Texas fared on Sean's 4 keys to the Cotton Bowl. And then we'll do our drunk Sean thoughts. My special lady friend invited me yesterday, I don't know, sometime mid-afternoon to go day drink. So we went and did that. I had a really girly looking coffee drink that was spiked. It was really good though. I needed a pick me up in the afternoon. So I got that. That was delicious. And then we went and did our usual Friday T-Mam, Tex-Mex and margaritas, and I think I had 5 margaritas at Margarita, and these are the big good, you know, we call them schooners out in Lubbock. I don't know what they're called everywhere else, but a big round trough for all the tequila goodness. Then I came home and got on some vodka drinks before the game and during the game. And so, yeah, man, we had some good ammo last night, some good fuel for some real good drunk Sean thoughts. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you're one of the few people that downloads the like actually listens to the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeart, go to the Buzzsprout link that I used to pitch to you guys every episode. If you're one of those, it's going away. It's going away pretty quickly. After these next couple episodes, I said I would take it away after football. And so I've got a couple more football episodes we'll do, obviously. We'll do a lot more than a couple more, but 2 main ones we'll do, this one and one we'll do on Monday. And then that's going away. So go over to YouTube, find us. You just type in Horn Takes Podcast in the search bar of YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe there. Let's talk about this Orange Bowl pick real quick. Man, it was a rough picking weekend for us. Real rough. I was just checking my stream. I don't even know if it's going. We'll see. Technology, man. Technology. Anyway, rough picking weekend for us. We had the Orange Bowl pick the other day. I really just thought I liked both these teams in this matchup. Both the defenses obviously really, really good. I just felt like Penn State would be a little more explosive. I thought they had a better opportunity to make some bigger plays, and I thought that would be the difference in the game. So we picked Penn State 23-16 over Notre Dame. That game started out kind of how we thought. Notre Dame kind of struggling to run the football. We thought that Penn State run defense would be really good and kind of hold up. And then we thought Penn State would kind of get the ball down the field and make some plays. And they did. They did make some big plays. The problem is their wide receivers had 0 catches. 0. And I think only like 4 targets the entire game. So Drew Allar really dialed into that big tight end and his running backs to a lot lesser extent. And by the way, that tight end, holy cow. I've seen a segment about him on game day earlier in the season. And they show clips and all that stuff. Like, man, that guy's pretty good. He's that dude's really good. He's a matchup problem. He's so big. Anyhow, Notre Dame comes out in that second half and really just, I mean, again, Penn State just almost they snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory in that game. Really shrewded it. Notre Dame comes back, gets it done. They're in the national championship game. Everybody, all eyes in the college football world, watching last night to see who would join Notre Dame in that national championship game. We had 4 keys. We always have 4 keys. We do a 4 keys and a prediction show. It's our last show before every game week, every game. So our 4 keys, number one, win the QB pressure battle. We talked about how you guys have to protect Quinn. Gave up 4 sacks, and I think Quinn was under pressure quite a bit in this game. 5 QB hurries for that Ohio State defense. So they they got some pressure on Quinn. It wasn't the worst we've seen, but it wasn't great. And we didn't think it would be great. Like we thought this Ohio State front four was going to be able to get some pressure. So I think what we got out of that Ohio State front four is not something like I wasn't expecting. I don't think they did any more than I expected them to do. We talked about affecting Will Howard because of that. Because we knew, hey, that Ohio State's front four is going to get you some stuff. They're going to get you some pressure. They're going to get you some sacks. We thought the Texas defense had to kind of hold serve and match that energy, match that pressure. And I thought they did a pretty good job. They had 2 sacks. They picked him off. They got him a little rattled there in the third quarter. It took them a while to get it done, but they finally started to get him a little rattled. They had 2 QB hurries on him. So the QB pressure battle, we definitely didn't win it. But I don't know that it was, and I think Ohio State did win it, but I don't think it was by a lot. I mean, you can certainly look at the plays they did create with pressure. Obviously, the sack, strip, touchdown run was huge, massive in that game. But if you sort of just look at the pressure in a vacuum and don't worry about what happened after the pressure, I think it was kind of a wash with a little bit of an edge there to Ohio State's front four. And I kind of thought that's how the game would go. I mean, what happened last night to me is a lot what I expected to happen in terms of the pressure game. We said Texas needed to stay balanced on offense. We've talked about all year long about Sark just kind of abandoning the run at times, and it puts us in really bad situations, puts the offensive line at a disadvantage, puts Quinn Ewers at a disadvantage. Again, I thought they did pretty well last night. 28 carries for the backs, only 39 pass attempts. Well, one of the things we said is if Texas finds themselves in a game where they just will not run the ball, and Quinn Ewers is attempting over 40 yards, or excuse me, over 40 passes in that game, they're going to lose because we've seen that game. That game is the Georgia game twice. Didn't eclipse that 40, but got damn close with those 39 attempts. But 28 carries, and I thought they were mixed in pretty well. And I thought in the second half they at times they moved the ball on the ground. And stay balanced on offense. I think they hit that. I think that's a win as far as the key goes. Big plays, we talked about having to limit them. Ohio State had at least 3. They had 2 long runs. Runs over 12 yards are considered explosives. And then you had the long touchdown on the screen pass right before the half, 75 yards. Any pass play over 20 is considered an explosive. And that's the type of explosive play for sure that we could not give up. But when I say we got to limit the explosive plays, that's the one you got to limit. The one where they take it to the house. They didn't do it. But again, I think one of those, that's a lot better than. I think the key to why Ohio State and why everybody thought Ohio State was just going to murder Texas were their two quick starts against Tennessee and against Oregon. And I made a mistake on the show the other day. I said they scored 42 first half points or first quarter points. It was only 35. Only 35. But you look at that game against Oregon, and it was 21-0 in a hurry, and they made a lot of big plays down the field to get to that 21. Said we had to hit them. We had 6. 1 run, 5 passes. Didn't really see Texas stretch the field that much or go down the field that much vertically, but honestly, just not a lot of time to do that. Big thing for that Texas defense, they held Jeremiah Smith to one reception for 3 yards. That outstanding job. I can't wait to go back and just kind of rewatch all that and just see how all that kind of played out. See what kind of coverages they may have rolled to him. See, I just want to see how they managed to do that because he was, I mean, to me, Jeremiah Smith, you watched him in that Oregon game, and that's a future Biletnikoff guy. And somehow Texas just managed to make him a complete non-factor. I mean, you almost didn't even hear his name the entire game last night. Finally, we said you got to win third down, and I think they did a pretty decent job. Neither team was good on offense on third down, and we expected that. These defenses both outstanding. We knew that coming in. Texas won third down, 33% conversions on offense, which was better than Ohio State. You look at it from what they normally convert, it was a loss because they're normally converting like 43% headed into this Cotton Bowl matchup. Ohio State only converted 30% of the time. I think one of the problems for Texas, they were just in third down too much. 5 more third down attempts for Texas than for Ohio State. Ohio State had 10, Texas had 15. So Texas goes 5 for 15, Ohio State goes 3 for 10. I don't think Texas was bad on the 4 keys. We talked about it before. They definitely, I feel like, executed on staying balanced. And then I kind of think everything else was a mixed bag. They did part of the key, and they also had some issues with part of the key. Obviously, our prediction for this game, 20-16. We thought it would be a lower scoring game, and it really, really turned out that way. And I know it's 28-14. Shouldn't have been 28-14. I think we can all agree that play was an outstanding play, but it's certainly one of those, and you can't take it away, but it's certainly one of those odd plays that just doesn't happen all the time. Offensively, for sure, this was a low-scoring game. I saw a ton of predictions out there like 41, 34, 35, and I'm like, that ain't happening. There is no way. These defense is too good. Drunk Sean thoughts, and let's lay down the rules for Drunk Sean thoughts for those of you that might be watching if the stream is actually going. As I said, looked like we were having some issues. Yeah, it looks like it's stuck. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just stuck on my screen. Who knows? So before we get started with Drunk Sean thoughts, here's the rules. Drunk Sean thoughts are literally that. They are my thoughts as I'm watching the game. And I do, folks. I take out my phone and I open up a note and I'll just start jotting stuff down as the game's going. And I've said this before. Sometimes it's really funny to wake up the next day as sober Sean and see what drunk Sean had to say during the game. And I actually challenged you guys before, and I'll do it again. Next year, when the season comes out or comes up, or when you're watching, if you're a big basketball fan, it'll probably be hilarious. I'm not a big basketball fan, so I haven't been watching the Texas basketball, but on Twitter, I'm on message boards. You see what's going on. It's not great. Probably some hilarity would ensue if you guys would all whip out your phone during a Texas basketball game, have a few drinks, jot down your thoughts, and then wake up the next day and see how hilarious you were. And stupid, because I've done it. I'm stupid and drunk Sean thoughts a lot. So then typically what I would do is go back, rewatch the game, and I'll have the after action review. And that's where I'll correct all the drunk Sean's mistakes and all that stuff. So this is, you might hear something you don't like and something also that might just be totally wrong. Well, they were drunk Sean thoughts. After the game, very disappointed, obviously, but 13-3, another really, really good program building season for Steve Sarkisian. I mean, you look at this season, they were a field goal away from the SEC championship. They won a couple college football playoff games. Player two away, I think, from a berth in the college football playoff national championship game. They just signed the number one recruiting class, and my understanding is it's the consensus number one recruiting class against all or across all Raiders. I think there are a lot of good days ahead for the Texas faithful. So I want you guys to hear that before we get into these drunk Sean thoughts. Lot of good days ahead for the Texas faithful. They say football is a game of inches. Coach D'Amato gave probably the best speech ever about inches, the game of inches, back in 1999. A hell of a speech. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. Why in the hell would you turn a game of inches into a game of yards by pitching the ball into numbers on second and goal from the 1 yard line in a 21-14 game? That was a drunk Sean thought. Like, what in the I said, what the hell are we doing? As soon as the play started, what the hell are we doing? I don't think there's much else to say about that. We'll go back and actually look at the play, and we'll talk about it on the next show. It'll be part of checking tape. We check tape on shows a lot. It's just where I analyze some film, analyze some plays. I keep saying analyze film, and I hate that. Analyze some tape. That sounds better. So I don't have the film. Neither do the other guys that say I'm watching the film. SEC Network had an outstanding idea that I just found out about yesterday. I think it's happened for all of the Texas playoff games, at least the last two. They'd actually made the video broadcast of the game with the audio from Craig Way on Longhorn Radio. And for those of you that, I can't imagine anybody watching this doesn't know who Craig Way is, but if you don't know who Craig Way is, really good radio guy and a lot of iconic calls over the years. He's been doing it for shit, man. He's been doing it forever. Early 2000s for sure. That far back. Outstanding. But they absolutely ruined it. They filled up like a third of the screen with boxes full of stats, and we got to watch Steve Sarkisian put the fucking thing over his face and call plays. What is that? Why is that important? We got like lineups and shit. Like I was so pissed because I got tired of listening to Kirby Herbstreit or whatever the hell his name is. Kirby Herbstreit. Herbstreit. I got tired of listening to Herbie. That's where I got Kirby. I was sick of listening to him like be slanted towards Ohio State. And guys, I'll just say, I'm not the guy that like thinks the announcers hate Texas all the time. I'm absolutely not that guy. And most of the time, I feel like Herbie is pretty balanced, even when he's calling an Ohio State game. But last night, man, it got kind of ridiculous. He lost his shit before the Orange Bowl on Desmond Howard When all Desmond Howard just said was the truth, they got an expensive roster and they're really talented. That's all Desmond was trying to say. Kirk Herbstreit got his panties so far in a bunch up his ass that he spent the next 5 minutes pissing and moaning about it on national TV. Nick Saban's looking away, like what is going on here? Yeah, it was terrible, and he carried that over into the broadcast. I felt like it. You guys let me know. I might be wrong. I just felt like it was overt and terrible. So I'm like, we're gonna watch this SEC thing. Couldn't even see the damn game. So kudos to whoever had the idea. A big thumbs down to whoever executed on the plan, because that shit was terrible. Also, Drunk Sean is very emotional, cusses a lot. So I apologize if you don't like foul language. My show, there will generally be several foul languages per show. So I apologize. I thought Quinn maybe had the ballsiest game of his career as a Texas Longhorn last night. I didn't say the best. I said the ballsiest. Thought the scramble on third down, where he almost picked up that first down in the second quarter, I thought that kind of ignited the team. I mean, he really put himself out there to try to pick that up. He gave him a shot to have a fourth down play, which they converted to extend that drive. And they go on a few plays later and tie it up at 7. He got sacked a few times. He spent a lot of the game under pressure. But I don't think we saw like the panicky Quinn Ewers like we've seen in the past. I mean, he had teammates drop passes in the first half. But he never turned into that sort of panicky Quinn Ewers like we saw in that first Georgia game. And like we've seen in the past, that Quinn Ewers can go from Quintavious to the panicky guy pretty quick, and he just absolutely stayed stoic last night. I thought it was ballsy. He hung in there, tied the game twice with touchdown passes. And if that's really Quinn's last game as a Texas Longhorn, and I think it probably is, he went out with his boots on last night, y'all. Absolutely. Thank you, number 3. People don't give Quinn Ewers enough credit, man. I know there's a lot of people out there that are unhappy with his performances, and sometimes I am. Then there's some people that just kind of hate Quinn Ewers for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just that they love Arch so much. I don't know if it's they just don't understand like really how football works. I don't know why, but there are Texas fans out there that just really don't like Quinn Ewers and really would have been fine with Quinn Ewers not playing at all last night. That dude brought Texas out of the slums and took us to the penthouse. He was a big part of that. So every one of us Texas fans should be at the very least thankful to Quinn Ewers for being a part of that and being a big part of it. So thanks again, number 3, man. Good luck to you in the future, whatever that means. This one's going to piss a lot of people off. I don't care. Sark needs to grow the fuck up. I wrote that in my drunk notes twice. Sark needs to grow up twice, like with about 5 notes in between it. That's how much I felt last night like Steve Sarkisian needs to grow up. He's a classic overthinker. Cute play calls for absolutely no reason. First and goal from the 1-yard line turns into 3rd and 8 because of just a really bad idea to me on second down. I know I've seen people say, "Oh, it wasn't a bad play call." Big time pundits, "Oh, it wasn't a bad play call. They just didn't execute." Well, whatever. I don't care. Call it what you. All I know is they motioned a man across the formation that brought a safety with him, so they're obviously in man coverage, which you should expect on the goal line. You brought a guy into the area where you wanted to run. And then you tossed it out there into numbers. 6 defenders against 5 people that could block. And I know Sark wasn't on the field, and he didn't know exactly how Ohio State was going to line up. But I think his job is to make sure Quinn Ewers can see that and understands that. People talk about Sark being a brilliant play caller, and maybe he is. But I think sometimes there's a lot of brilliance in just simple. I'm a big, big Office fan. I stick an earbud in my ear almost every night, and I turn on The Office. I could probably recite to you guys every single Office episode, every single line from almost every single Office episode. I use them. I use phrases. If you follow me on Twitter, you see me post GIFs all the time, and I call them GIFs. I don't give a damn what you call them. Love the show. Sark calling plays sometimes reminds me of the time when Dwight Schrute got in a fight with himself because he was trying to prove how good of a hand-to-hand combat expert he was, and he ended up kicking his own ass. And I think sometimes Sark tries to prove he's a brilliant play caller, and he ends up kicking his own ass. I think he thinks touchdown way too often, and here, understand me when I say that. He should be wanting to score touchdowns, and we all want every play to be a touchdown, but the reality is every play is not going to be a touchdown. There's like this. You peel that top layer, that top piece of the onion back on football, and you start to realize there's like little strategic things that happen constantly during football games that coaching staffs are doing. Sometimes the plays that get called are not about being successful on that play. They're about being successful later in the game. And I think Sark's definition of success is we should just score every play. So a lot of times, good enough just ain't good enough for him. Like we're moving the ball, we're running it. I mean, we got to pass now because I got to score a touchdown. Or we got to run some crazy ass play that gets nothing because I got to get a touchdown. And I feel like they won't see it coming. No, I don't want Sark fired. I absolutely love Sark. If you follow this show at all for the last 3 years, y'all should know I love Sark. What he's doing for this Texas program, amazing work. But that doesn't mean he's perfect. And to me, I don't think anybody is above criticism, including myself. I get criticized all the time at work. Well, I wouldn't say all the time, but sometimes I don't do what I'm supposed to do, or you know what I mean. Like I don't. We all need coaching. I guess is what I'm trying to say. And for Sark, there's really nobody that's there to coach him. He's the top. He's the CEO. So he's gonna have to coach himself. He's gonna have to be willing to step back, look at himself, and say, what could I do better? How could I help the situation be better? You know, the question behind the question for you business folks out there. But he needs to grow up. I wrote it down twice in my drunk Sean notes, so I had to say it twice. We now live in a college football world where pointing down the field after a long pass play is a penalty, but grabbing an edge defender from behind by both hands on a third down play is not a penalty. That's the world we live in. Those 2 plays of that game last night, and I'm not bitching. I don't think like I'm not going to say that cost us the game because that's stupid. It didn't. Neither one of them did. But those 2 plays are like a perfect summation of this season for college football officiating crews. Just garbage. Like those two penalty calls don't even make sense in the order they actually happened. I've been a I've been a staunch small back apologist for like 2 seasons. Hear me by what I mean by that. A lot of people thought last year when Baxter was in and out, we lost our other big guy that's in the NFL today, that Blue and Wisner couldn't get anything done. Like, we were done. We were in trouble. A lot of people thought we were in trouble when Baxter goes out with the ACL in fall camp this year because we didn't have a big back. And I just never have understood that. Like, I've seen Blue run, I've seen Wisner run. Those guys can run, and and contrary to popular belief, they can run between the tackles. They might require a little more space than a Cedric Baxter, but they can get the job done. It was my thought process, and I mean, they have done that. They did it some last year. They did it a lot this year. And I wouldn't necessarily call Trey Wisner and Jaden Blue like small backs, but they're certainly not, your prototypical big back. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. But for the sake of this discussion, we'll just say they're on the smallish side. They're not your prototypical big guy. No more am I a staunch small back apologist. I think Texas is going to have to go out in the portal and find some big backs. They're going to have to start recruiting some big backs. And yeah, I know we got two of them on the roster. They both got hurt in fall camp. And I hope they both fully recover, but I don't know if you're Steve Sarkisian that you count on that. One of them had an Achilles injury. Sometimes you come back from those, sometimes you don't. ACLs, most of the time you can at least come back from it. I don't know. I mean, I think the process has become really good, and a lot of these guys come back and they never have any issues. But there's other people that do. So if you're Sark, I don't know if you go, man, I got these guys in the stable. We're good. I think they got to start ramping up recruiting on some big guys and start getting some guys out of the portal. Because last night, a big back would have been really good to have. Again, nothing against Jaden Blue, nothing against Trey Wisner. I love both of those guys. They're just not big tackle breakers. And last night, we needed somebody that could break some tackles. They're good at not getting tackled. It's just not tackle breakers. You get an arm on them and they're going down. Get your hand on their foot, they're getting tripped. When is the last time Texas scored some points off of a turnover? And that's just a question I thought of last night because I'm pretty sure we didn't score after Benda intercepted that pass. When's the last time that happened? I'm sure it's probably not as long as it seems to me, but it seems like it's been forever. I think the same thing happened in the Clemson game. I know it did. In their end of the field, we couldn't score. That's a problem. I think PK needs to ditch his entire 2-minute playbook and just kind of start over. Just go back and draw up some new shit because that 2-minute stuff has killed us 2 times that I can think of in the last 2 seasons, last 3 seasons, last 2 seasons. I have no idea why you play 3 down linemen, fire the nickel back, and drop into space with 29 seconds left in the half. If you want to bring 4 people, put 4 fucking defensive linemen down there and bring 4 people. Again, we're talking situationally here. I could see why at some point you might want 3 down linemen and you may want to bring a defensive back on a blitz. 29 seconds to go when the team is on the 25-yard line. Their 25-yard line is not the time to pull a defensive lineman out and blitz a nickelback. Sorry, it's not. And Chip Kelly got your ass. We talked about that matchup between PK and Chip Kelly, and it was going to be really interesting to see how that whole thing kind of played out. Man, I think PK got him a few times, obviously, but he got him on that one, and he got him big. Chip Kelly did. It's the same type of nonsense that got us beat in the Red River Shootout 2 years ago, where we gave up points at the end of the first half and at the obviously the end of the second half because we went to 3 down linemen, didn't cover anybody, just covered spaces, and we covered spaces so far down the field from where the actual play was happening that dudes are just catching the ball and running up the field. Burn it, flush it, do something else. I don't care. That sucks. I, I don't expect them to listen to me, obviously, but I don't get it, man. I do what works. Do what's been working. What was wrong with what had been working the entire first half? You held the most powerful offense, the hottest team in football, to 7 points. Why change what you're doing? That make no sense to me. I'd love somebody to do a statistical breakdown of like what actually happens when teams sort of get, and I don't know if we'd call that prevent necessarily, but sort of that, you know, I'm going to do something different because I don't want somebody to get behind me type of mentality defense. I'd love to see the breakdown. It's got to be close to 50%, like 50-50, that it doesn't work. So at what point do you go, hey man, this is like a coin flip if I do this? Why don't I not just do what has been working the entire first half? A lot of bickering last night on Texas message boards, on Twitter, I'm sure all the other socials. Fans vent, fans deal with losses all a little different. I get it. People have to go through that process. They have to do their own process. But I think lost in all that is the fact that that's the last time some of those Texas Longhorns are going to ever get to put that uniform on again. It's the last time they're going to get to wear that burnt orange and white. So everybody should be thanking those guys, thanking those young men for their, again, we talked about Quinn being a major part of Texas being where it is today. A lot of those guys were too. A lot of those guys got their asses kicked the first couple seasons. Texas scored a third quarter touchdown last night, and they actually won the third quarter. So kudos to that Texas team for being able to do both of those things. We haven't seen that in a long. Coming into that game last night, Texas had scored 6 points in total in the last 6 games. 2 field goals. That was one of our bonus keys. Not one of our bonus keys. It was our bonus key. Was win the third quarter. For God's sake, do something in a third quarter. And they did. See, it's not all negative. That was good shit. At some point last night, I exclaimed while I was watching the game, because I do this. I stand up, y'all. I get like I'll get down like I'm a coach. Like I get nervous, so I can't just sit and watch a football game like that. So I get nervous. I stand up and I pace around, and but I do the whole hands on the knees thing, and I'm watching the play, and I was doing that, and at some point I exclaimed, "Just trust Quinn, and you win." In other words, what I was saying was like, let's stop handing the ball off. And if you guys know me and listen to this show at all, y'all know I'm like a run guy, and I've been on Sark's ass for 2 or 3 years now about why does he just stop running the ball. Last night, I got really emotional about it, and I got impatient, just like Sark does. And I was like, man, we got to let Quinn win this game. So I guess nobody's perfect. I wanted to. I'm not afraid to say when I'm wrong, and I'm not afraid to kind of point out and make fun of myself a little bit, or point out the irony in me wanting us to stop running the football. If y'all watch, y'all learn that about me. I think Texas shut up a lot of pundits last night. Everybody thought Texas was getting their asses stomped coming into that game, except for Lee Corso. Lee Corso loves him some Texas, man. Me and my wife were talking about that. He, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but he just loves him some Texas. I thought a lot of times during that game last night that Texas looked like the better team. But that game last night, a lot like most games between two really good teams like that, two evenly matched teams like that, two evenly talented teams like that, they usually come down to like a couple key moments. And I thought Ohio State was better in those moments. We just talked about the 75-yard screen pass. And being better to me is not just on the field and execution. It's like the play calling, it's the coaching staff, it's preparedness, it's a lot of things. I thought Ohio State, from the coaching staff on down, was better in that moment than Texas was. And then let's go to the fourth quarter. We got the ball on the 1-yard line. I thought the Ohio State coaching staff, all the way down through to the players, was better than the Texas coaching staff all the way down through the players. So, yeah, I think both teams had moments in this game where they looked like the better team. Ohio State really cashed in on those moments, and those were two big, really big moments. Just like I'm not afraid to point out when I'm wrong, sometimes I will point out when I'm right, and here's one of those. I called that second touchdown pass to Jaden Blue before that ball ever snapped. There's a video of it on Twitter. I don't know how my wife managed to video that, but she did. Maybe she was videoing me all night, and that's how she had it. I don't know. I am pretty attractive. But when I say I call it, I mean I like diagnose that shit. All of it. Like what was gonna happen before while the players were lining up. It wasn't just some random guess like the dude that sits at a baseball game and calls for a home run like every single inning, and finally somebody hits a home run. Like I was like, yeah, Blue's about to roll out on the shit, man, I can't think of the route. He's running out of the backfield down the field on the wheel. So that was pretty awesome. Check it out on Twitter. It's there. I thought the O line and the D line matched up really, really well against this Ohio State O line and D line. I didn't think it was I don't think either team could say they dominated that game in the trenches. Again, a lot of back and forth. And the defense has really, carried the play. And we thought they would. Two really outstanding front fours. If you looked at that game and thought, if you looked at those two teams coming into that game and thought much different than both defensive lines were going to kind of carry the play for most of the game, I don't know what you were looking at. But again, those offenses too talented to not hit a little bit of explosive plays, and they both did that. People thought Texas was going to get bullied and out-physicaled and all this crazy shit, and they absolutely did not. So kudos to Texas, man, for showing up with a little attitude, ready to play. Just didn't work out for them, and that's okay. The sun rose today. The sun will rise tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday with some video analysis of the Cotton Bowl, and we'll wrap up this 2024 season, or we'll start to wrap up this 2024 season. We'll do our players that popped from the Cotton Bowl. We'll have some defensive and offensive MVP awards. What is Quinn Ewers' legacy? If he leaves, if this is really it for Quinn Ewers, what's his legacy at Texas? What does Texas need to focus on this offseason as they head into this 2025 season? We'll answer that and a lot more next time. Early enrollees report tomorrow. Baseball is coming in like 33, 34 days. I'm excited about that. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Subscribe, follow, all that stuff, man. We would really appreciate it. We love the support, love the interaction. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com. About your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. Tough loss. Let's move forward.